Good evening, cousins, and welcome to another Shattersong LARP Diaries episode, where, once again, we're talking about Menhirs Fate. Specifically, the rules, and rather than dotting around, I'm actually just going to work through these in order from now on. There's only a couple of episodes that are slightly out of order, but the idea here is with the next few Menhirs Fate episodes, unless something dramatic happens, which it will, so this is an empty promise, but my intention is to go through rules one by one and just start to get some context on how the game plays from a mechanics point of view. I've dived into some of the healing, apothecary and combat rules stuff so far. We've also talked about armour, and overall I'm a big fan. Something like apothecary, it looks massively overcomplicated, but once you read it and reread it a second time, it's not too bad. We haven't done weaving. Those of you who don't know me, I detest mages and playing as a mage. The whole point of being a hero is doing it with a stick. It's more heroic. If I can just fireball everything to death, I'm not really a hero. But that's coming last because I just don't want to do it. So what that does leave us is looking at some of the skills, and we've mentioned them so far. We've mentioned them so far. And we've talked about crush or rend because it's been mentioned in some of the armor rules. But what we're going to do in this episode is actually go through them in full, see what they do, and see how they interact with the world. Okay, so I've had a quick skim of these rules just before this episode, and I think that some of the elements are repeated. So some of this will sound the same from the skills list or from the combat rules, so apologies for a little bit of repetition. I will skip over what I think has been covered before. However, there are some additional caveats here that are not mentioned on the basic skills list. So, for example, I was incorrect in the previous episode around the basic skills for light armor being 1 XP, medium armor being 2 XP, and heavy 3. If we actually dive into those, buying one of them, so let's say buying light armor, 1 XP, it actually reduces the cost of other armor types. So medium now only costs 1 and heavy only costs 2. So I think that you can safely ignore my advice from previous episode around XP not going as far as it would in Menhirs Fate as, say, Empire. But let's dive into the detail and actually have a proper look at it. So, first things first, all characters in Menhirs Fate have the following abilities. I think I covered these before, but they're literacy, numeracy, map usage, compass usage, dagger and one-handed weapons, and bucklers. You may not dual wield 2 one-handed weapons or daggers. You need the ambidex skill for that. And notice for on literacy, numeracy, maps, and compasses, the player may choose the ability of the character. So it's up to you. So if you want to be illiterate for whatever reason for a character, you can do so. Alright, interesting note there on maps and compasses. I have just realised that might be a vague pointer towards some orienteering style quests, because something that used to be the case years and years ago is you'd have like non-com skirmishes at Empire, especially ones for physics, and they were so much fun. You go in and find a totally butchered Navari patrol with literal, sausages pouring out of someone's guts. Those are fake blood everywhere. It was an absolute massacre, and the physics would have to go and triage them and see how many they could save, and that was the threat of the skirmish. I think we might get a treasure hunt out of this. So having a map and a compass and saying 10 paces north, 50 paces east, so on and so forth, and trying to locate treasure whilst, maybe being attacked by a skirmishing warband, that could be part of it. That could be one of the adventures. And I think this is a really good opportunity to put those kind of base skills in, and then work off those for your actual quests. Very cool. I like it. Alright, basic skills, light armor. We've talked about this in another episode. So, you get 2 additional hits for partial coverage and 3 for full coverage. So your base human has 2, partial light gives you 4, or full light gives you 5. And the crush effect only does 1 point of damage to you, but the rend one will rip off a limb or put you down to bleeding if it hits you in the stomach. However, what's new, I say new, what I hadn't noticed before, is that buying this skill will reduce the cost of medium armor to 1 XP and heavy armor to 2 XP. So, if we move on to medium, where it gives you 4 hits for full, 3 hits for partial, you now have 6 total hits if you're in full medium, blah 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 blah. You only take 1 point of damage from crush, but rend will still affect you, blah 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 blah. But now the cost of heavy armor has been reduced to 1 XP as well. So you spend 1 for light, 1 for medium, and if you have medium, it means the heavy's 1, so 3. So 3 XP overall gives you access to all 3 armor types. Pretty cool. You can wear light, medium, and heavy if you take the heavy armor skill. The character wearing armor has 4 hits at partial and 5 at full coverage. And whilst wearing it, you can't cast any spells or rites. It's the same as medium armor, but you may cast ceremonies. So if you're priesty characters, your warrior priest, you're still good. Rend will only do 1 point of damage to you in heavy, but crush will flatten you. Okay, there we go. Ambidextrous, one-handed weapon or foci or dagger in their offhand, and in your main hand, a one-handed weapon if you wish, or a dagger, or whatever. Characters cannot use 2 shields or bucklers. Thank you, Menhirs Fate team. Everyone goes, ha ha ha, what about 2 shields? It's not funny, nobody cares. Range proficiency, bow or crossbow, 4 XP. Standard, they always inflict rend, good. They're good against medium and light infantry. Shield proficiency, they use a shield larger than a buckler, nothing important there. While using a shield, any attacks that hit the shield do not inflict damage on the user. Ensnare, Shatter, and Stagger will still cause their effects. It's nice to keep it in one spot for shields. If characters have the shield proficiency and the Stagger call from the Vigour skill list, then characters are able to use Stagger in response to being hit on the shield by a melee attack. Right, now that is interesting. I'm going to pause this for a second and read Stagger and give you a proper lowdown. Right, I've read it. Okay, Menhirs Fate, another gold star for you with a really cool rule. Shields can call Stagger, and if you call it, the opponent must take 3 large steps away from you, even if they parry it. So if someone comes at you, big warhammer, you duck under your shield, go up to meet it and block it, you can then look them in the eye and go Stagger, because you've just vibe checked them so hard that they move backwards. So shield fighting just got a lot cooler. Fuck yeah. Will that be powerful? It's only for shields, and it specifically says on the Stagger rule the shield may this call may hit the shield of the target unless delivered by a ranged spell. So you can stagger someone through a shield, but yeah, and you can use stagger in response to being hit on the shield by a melee attack. So what could happen is someone goes stagger and hits you, and then you get hit and go stagger as you parry it with your shield, and then you both take 3 steppers back. I think that's going to be really cinematic. I said that far too quickly. I think that's going to be really cinematic. Love it. 2 XP, shield also include. Next up, throwing weapons. Endless meme, throwing weapons. A bag of 200 throwing knives is discussed at least once every summit, and it will be the same here. Cool. Toughness. +1 hit point, and it ramps up in cost each time, nothing new there. 2-handed weapons. You can use 2H weapons, staffs, and spears. Polearms are a separate category, and they cost 3 XP. However, if you have 2-handed a weapon, it only costs you 1 XP. So it's 2 for the base, and if you want to upgrade to polearm, it'll cost you 3 in total. It's worth knowing that pikes, so polearms and pikes, they cannot be used to make any calls. And just to check what is defined as a polearm, 72 and 84 inches long, so I think that's shorter than most spears. And then 84 to 108 inches is a pike. Either way, they are not allowed to make calls, so no one calling rend or crush from 8 feet away. Not bad. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the basic skills. Let's go and have a look at the Vigour skills. So Vigour is a warrior skill that represents their physical energy, and to use certain skills in the game will require Vigour. When you use Vigour, this represents you doing great amounts of physical energy and using it, so when you do so, please remember to roleplay this appropriately. A player can start with 2 Vigour, but may buy more with XP. There are several combat skills that require it in the game, and those are listed below. You can deliver any call powered by Vigour with any melee weapon except a foci, which is like a little wand, which are used to deliver calls powered by focus, which is your mana. Bows and crossbows cannot deliver any damage effect apart from rend, which they always inflict naturally. If you use a Vigour call from the list below and the target doesn't take a call and doesn't explicitly stop it affecting them, then you don't spend your Vigour. So for example, Jess Bobbins wants to use their Vigour to do a crush call, so they take a big breath, hold their sword aloft and do a huge, but still safely pulled, blow to their opponent, calling crush. So that's, again, nice to see this codified, that if a target doesn't take its call, you don't spend the effect. So if someone doesn't react, do it again. Do it again. And when they take it, that's when you spend your point. May the gods witness me. No XP costs. All players who take the Vigour skill have this basically. Basically? At a base level. At a base level, that sounds less stupid. Right, so the skills list, just for Vigour, to buy into it, it's 3 XP, and you'll get 2 Vigour points included in that. You can say, may the gods witness me, and you may fight for 1 more minute, or until you're told to stop by a referee, in which time they cannot be healed, and are immune to all damage, but not damage effects. So you can lose limbs, and you can be staggered, for example, but you continue to roleplay being hurt from the attacks, and at the end of this, you will die. You do not enter a terminal or critical state. All combat during this time must still adhere to the combat safety rules, and using this effect is not a pass for unsafe combat. So I'm imagining like the end of Platoon, you're running away, and one of you, is getting shot in the back and turns around, you realise it's over, and you go, may the gods witness me. And you sit there with your sword on the floor, waiting with the cultists to rip off your face. Another gold star for a rule, having something in here that allows someone an epic death in combat without going, oh, actually, you've taken 4 cleaves and you need to enter a critical state. It's watching someone die to protect their friends, no matter the cost. Love it. Next up, Fired Up. Again, this is no XP cost. You get it for free if you take Vigour. The character may spend 30 seconds of roleplay to regain 2 Vigour up to their maximum Vigour. You may not gain Vigour beyond your cap with this skill. Appropriate roleplay for this skill could be psyching yourself up for the coming fight, and then safely fighting, personally motivating yourself and a nearby friend, or delivering an inspiring speech or moment. This ability can only be used once per day. So I really like that. You take the Vigour skill and you have 2 points in combat, and I think they wanted to basically give you 4, but they want you to spread it out. So you do 2, you're out of Vigour, and then you just take a step back, you pick up one of your mates, and you just start an inspiring speech. Get them off their feet. You gain your 2 Vigour back, and you're welcome to jump back into the fight. I think a lot of... what am I going to say here? I was about to accuse everyone of cheating, which is not fair. I think a lot of people will use calls, not realise someone's taken it, and use it again. And you see people who are, maybe you should only have 2 calls. So I'm talking about Empire here. You might see them do 3 or 4 across the battle, or maybe 10 or 11. And like, well, are you using potions? Are you not? Are people taking it? Are you not sure? I think this game is geared towards this kind of the kind of gameplay where rather than having one or two abilities, you've got repeated uses of them, but they're less impactful. So if you think Strike Down versus Stagger, right? Strike Down at Empire is ass to grass. It's a big thing to do. But Stagger, you can even do it on your bloody shield, which is awesome, but it's only 3 steps back. And then you could do it twice, take a breath, do it another twice to somebody. So you're going to have much more impact on the battlefield, but it's spread across the combat. So I think you'll feel a bit more like a hero without it being the automatic win-loss button that some other calls like Shatter in Empire can be. So yeah, giving you the ability to go and get another 2 hero points without having to leave a whole battle. Because if you've got like a hero point based character, but... Sorry, I shouldn't say hero point. If you've got a Vigour based character who's going to be pumping out lots of calls like Rend and Crush, you don't want to be limited to twice per battle. You've got 4 now. Congratulations. I don't think I made my point in the best possible way there, but overall, fired up, I like it. And may the gods witness me, 10 out of 10 rule. Love it. Vigour skills. So you've got Vigour itself, 3 XP for 2 points. Lush. Extra Vigour costs 2, and then increases by 1 XP each time. So, for example, the first additional Vigour is 3 XP, and then 4 XP for the second. Characters with Vigour regain their full amount at the start of each day. So, you're not stuck with 2 for the weekend, you've got 2 per day, of which can recharge once. Alright. Crush. Talked about this a lot. 2 XP. If you hit the character and they are in heavy armor, they take damage. I'm sorry guys, I can't speak today. They take damage equal to the hit points of their remaining hit points and enter a critical state. So it's instant kill. If they aren't in heavy armor, it does 1 point of damage. This call must hit target. Ooh, so it's got to hit the metal armor. Yeah, I don't think it. When I said something about bellies being hit earlier, I was wrong. I keep getting things wrong. Do your own research, people. I'm biased and poorly informed. Right, so that's the anti-armor hit we've all been hearing about. That's very powerful. Holy shit. Next up, I've seen worse. 1 XP. Oh, apologies, let me rewind. Each of these calls isn't just 1 Vigour point, some of them are 2. So Crush, that's really powerful. It costs 2 Vigour to use. So that's your charges in one go before a refresh. Okay, that's a bit more balanced. I like it. Next up, I've seen worse. Cost 1 Vigour. 1 XP to buy the skill, and this allows a character to spend 1 Vigour to use the call I've seen worse with 10 seconds roleplay to restore 1 other character from critical state to 3 hit points. This can only be done onto someone else, as you cannot do it to yourself. Regeneration, 1 Vigour, 2 XP to buy, and it can be used in the following ways. 1. A player may stand back up and loudly call regeneration to restore 3 hit points and thus leave their critical state. This is not subtle and should be done within a couple seconds of the final blow. Second usage. A player may also loudly call regeneration to restore themselves to their base 3 hit points. Hits are global, regardless of source, so this ability may only ever restore you to those base 3 hits. This is not subtle. Big thumbs up for making sure that this is not subtle. You don't want someone going, oh, regeneration. You've got to yell it. Like it. Better for the combat roleplay. They've also combined. No, it's not limb regeneration. That's different. I'm trying to compare this to Empire again. I think this is the same as Unstoppable, where either you go from 0 to 3, or if you're still on your feet, you add 3 to your current level. You get your base 3. Oh, okay. Apologies everyone, I'm just triple reading to make sure I'm getting this right. Yeah, so I think the wording's not great on this one. Might need a rewording. I think the intention is that it gives you plus 3 hit points and it talks about global hits. So I think if I'm wearing armor and I've got, let's say, a total of 7 down to 4 and I use this, I would go back up to 7. But the final line here says, this ability may only ever restore you to those base 3 hits. Is this for using if you're on 1 or 2 hit points? And then just want a little top up before you go down. I'm not. That sounds a bit shit as a skill, but I guess it's looped into regeneration for free. So I guess you could always say that you're going to be on at least 3 hit points, regardless of whether you're down or up. But I think that does need a bit of a rewording. All right, Rend. Cost is 2 Vigour. More difficult skill. Love it. 2 XP to buy. If you hit the character, they take damage equal to their hit points and begin their death count and enter a critical state, unless they are wearing heavy armor, in which case it does 1 point of damage. Note for all arrows and bolts in Menhirs Fate do rend damage. This call must hit the target. Cool. Unambiguous. Stun. 2 Vigour. 1 XP to buy. If you hit the character, it's unable to defend itself, attack or cast spells for 10 seconds. Shields must fall to the side of the body. Oh, okay, so you can't just sit on the floor with your shield on you with your head, you move it to one side. I think that's a typo, they may move at a walking pace. Okay, so you don't have to stand still, it's not like paralyze, but you can't defend yourselves, attack or cast spells, you just start to slowly walk away. I guess it's kind of like simulating a crawl, if you will. Someone's been stunned, they drop to the floor, you start to crawl away, and you just wail on them while they're doing so, and you've got 10 seconds of doing that. I think if you hit someone with a stun, it says this call must hit the target, and if we hop back to shields, do shields mean that we have to take this as well? I think so. Go do your own research, but I'm pretty sure that the stun will still work through a shield, and you just get wailed on. 10 seconds. Yikes. Yeah. So this is a bit like, it's halfway between entangle and paralyze. Pretty devastating. I think if you get hit by this, you're pretty much dead. That's probably why it costs 2 Vigour. Alright, Stagger. 1 Vigour point, 1 XP. If this hits a character, they are thrown away from the user of the attack for 3 large steps, even if you parry it. A character may choose to roleplay more if they wish. Gold star, love it. Roleplay looped into the rules, love it. Oh, here we go. If only I read the bloody rules, guys, because it clarifies it here about stun. So it says this call may hit the shield or the target. So for stun, if they use a shield, it stops it. For stagger, it does not. So shields are really good. Shields are goated. Alright, who would have thought that? So overall, I'm pretty happy with the Vigour skills and the basic skills for this. I've struggled a bit with some of the reading. I think this could use just a little bit of a retouch on some of the sentences here. But just a quick review. May the gods witness me is dramatic LARP death as a rule. 10 out of 10. Fired up, having a recharge of your hero points so you can get back into combat and do more stuff. 7 out of 10. I'm sure some people will abuse this. It's impossible to stop, but cheating in LARP is impossible to stop. But I think you'll be able to have more fun and do more things and more staggers. I'm pretty stagger pilled right now. Fired up is going to fuel that. 8 out of 10 rule. Vigour and extra Vigour, nothing special there. Crush, 10 out of 10. Dealing with heavy armour and LARP, nice. I've seen worse. Nothing special, just get someone up. Regeneration, depending on the wording, I think it's either great or meh. I still think going from critical to standing up is really important in a battlefield because it'll keep you alive by running the fuck away. However, using regen to heal yourself, I'm pretty sure it's add 3 hit points to your current total up to your max, rather than add 3 up to 3. Rend, the fact that Rend and Crush cost 2 Vigour big thumbs up, but otherwise nothing special with rend. Stun is shield goes to your side and you can walk or stand still if you want, but you're allowed to walk at a walking pace whilst you can't defend yourself for 10 seconds. I think some people will probably struggle to carry this out mechanically, but in the spirit they'll probably just take a few hits and then drop dead anyway, because 10 seconds is 10 damage. So in heavy armor, you've got 3 base, and I think full heavy armor does 5. So you've got 8 maximum. I'm sure enchantments can take you beyond that, but yeah, unless you're tooled up, this is a death sentence, but it costs 2 vigor, and that's probably why. And then finally, the best rule of combat so far is stagger. You can call this to make someone take 3 steps away from you, even if it hits their shield, but if they have the shield and the stagger skill as well, they can counter stagger you. Can't wait to see this in play. Really excited about almost like an area denial unit who've got sword and board, heavy armor, they're quite tough. Crush needs to hit the target, so shield will protect you from crush. Otherwise it does feel like a 1000-degree knife that will insta-kill you if you're in heavy armor, but you can use your shield to protect yourself, and if someone comes close and you block it, you can just look them in the eye and go stagger and watch them walk away. Overall, 8 out of 10. Some very solid rules in here, need some clarifications, but otherwise this is just adding to my overall keenness for trying out the Menhirs Fate combat system. So next up, we will be covering Faith, but that will be for another episode. Until then, dear cousins, farewell!